Welcome back to the second session on human resources, part 1. Let's first go over what we did last time. I told you about the sources I will be using for this course. Some concepts that we covered, human resources. I asked you to stop the session midway and discuss whether the above should be called personnel or human resources and why. I also told you who a manager is, who line employees are, and who staff employees are. Okay. Now, we covered what human resources or the field of human resources encompasses. This is the list of questions that human resources personnel usually try to answer. Human resources managers try to find out who specifies the content of each job. These are the questions that they answer. So how the content of each job is specified, how many jobs are necessary for an organization, how are the interrelationships among jobs determined and communicated to people, the number, design and content of jobs from the perspective of the organization, what is the big picture, how does all this fit in, what should training programs stress, how should performance on each job be measured, and how much each job is worth. And some of these issues will be covered in today's class. Some concepts that we will be talking about today are business processes. Business processes are value-adding, value-creating activities such as product development, customer service, and order fulfillment. Okay, these are some of the activities that an organization undertakes in order to create value for its customers. The second concept that we will be using in today's class is business process re-engineering, which is fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business processes to achieve dramatic improvements in cost, quality, service and speed. So these are the, how we shape, how we modify, how we adapt our business to the changing environment. In the last class I had focused a lot on how environment changes and how these changes affect the way we deal with the processes and the goals of our organization. Today we will be talking about how we can adapt to these changes. Then the third concept that we will be talking about will be job design, which is the process of organizing work into the tasks required to perform a specific job. When we talk about a specific job, it is an independent unit of contribution towards the organization's goals. Okay, so a job is one unit, a standalone piece of work that can contribute independently to the overall goal of the organization, and if that unit is missing, something remains missing in the overall goal of the organization. That is what we call as a job. Job analysis is the process of obtaining information about jobs. How do we know what needs to be done? What are the steps? How do we know all of this? So we'll be talking a little bit about that, and then we will be talking about job description. In order to get people to do what we need them to do, we need to tell them about what needs to be done, and job description does specifically that. Job specification is a summary of worker requirements. So job description is what we need to do. Job specification is the worker requirements. What kinds of skills do we want our employees to come with? Workflow is the way we work, and the way we work is organized to meet the organization's production or service goals. So workflow is what we do, how we do it, the sequence of events in the performance of a job. Workflow analysis is the examination of how work creates or adds value to the ongoing business processes. So how do processes add value? How do these steps add value? Does anything need to be changed? Does anything need to be added? Does anything need to be deleted? All of this contributes or constitutes workflow analysis. Why do we study job requirements? The first reason is organizational structure and design. We study job requirements to find out what kind of a structure and what design will our organization have. What do we need to do? Will ultimately help us decide what shape to give to our organization. Human resource planning. How do we plan? How many people do we get? What do we need to look at? What do we need to consider? What do we need to adjust? What do we need to modify? Job evaluation and compensation is another reason. We need to know what needs to be done so that we can find out how much time it will take for us to do it, or for each employee to do it, how much we need to pay them, what we need to give them, what kinds of benefits and services and privileges do they need to get. Then recruitment. Recruitment is the identification of potential employees. Okay, recruitment refers to the identification of people who can do the job that we want done. So we identify them, we contact them, and then we select from that pool the employees that we want to keep. Okay, recruitment is sending out, recruitment is identifying, letting people know that they are in this pool of candidates who are equally qualified or equally competent to do the job. In other words, it could also be referred to as shortlisting, though shortlisting is different, but recruitment is of course one step ahead of shortlisting, where people are actually called and then finally they are selected from that pool. Okay, they may be called for an interview, but they make it to the final round of interviews. They are all equally qualified, equally competent, and then we decide which of these we would like to keep. Okay, then we come to selection. That is another thing we'll talk about. How do we find out who can do the job that we need them to do? Orientation, training and development. Once we take the employees into our organization, what do we do with them? We need to tell them about the organization. We need to help them become comfortable in their workplace. We need them to learn how to do what we need them to do. We also need to train them sometimes in essential activities. We also need to help them develop their skills so that their personal goals can be met at some point through the organizational goals. So all of that also is included in the responsibilities of the human resources manager. The other thing we need to do is performance appraisal. Once they start doing their job, we also need to evaluate their progress in that job. We also need to find out what they are doing, how much they are doing, where they need help, where they need guidance, where they need to be checked. Okay, so all of that constitutes performance appraisal. Then career path planning. We all want to grow. One is learning, satisfying our personal goals. We all want to know, if we join as trainees, we all want to know how we can get to the next higher level. So that refers to, or that becomes career path planning. Then labor relations. Wherever there is a pool of people who are doing a lot of hands-on work, and there is a pool of people, or there's a collection of people who are telling them what to do, there is bound to be conflict, because many of us are not able to see the big picture from the perspective of our superiors, who could be 3, 4, 5 levels ahead of us. Somebody needs to tell us. Okay, so somebody, and despite the best efforts of the management and despite our commitment to our organizations, many times conflicts can occur. So how do we relate to this organization that we are a part of. The human resources manager helps employees become comfortable in their positions within the organization. It helps employees find out where they fit in the organization. It also helps the human resources manager also helps the organization see which employee is contributing how. What is the independent contribution of each employee to that organization, and helps develop a value for the organization and for the employee. So then labor relations, of course, how do people talk to each other. Then engineering design and methods improvement, job design, safety, again we discussed all this last time, vocational guidance and rehabilitation counseling in case people get hurt on the job. How do they get rehabilitated, or if there's a problem and they take a hiatus from work, how do they come back and integrate within the organization. So all that becomes the responsibility of the human resources manager. And job classification systems, how do we divide up the jobs and put them into different categories, and then decide compensation systems, benefits, etc. for them. So for all of these reasons we need to find out what needs to be done and who can do it, and how many people are required for a particular job. Okay, so these are the reasons why we need to study job requirements. Types of organizational structure. The first thing we talked about was the organizational structure and design. So let's find out what kinds of organizational structure there are. The first one is called bureaucratic organizational structure, which is very, very clear, straightforward, top-down, vertical, pyramidal structure. There's a top-down management approach. So the bosses decide what needs to be done. They tell the junior employees, and the junior employees just go ahead and do it. There are many levels of management. There are hierarchical career paths within one function. So it's very clear how the employee or how the junior employee will sort of move on to the senior position, what is required, what needs to be done, all of this will be there. Highly specialized jobs are there. Our boundaries are clearly defined. We know what we can do or what we are empowered. I won't say what we can do. We can do a lot of things, but what we are empowered to do. Okay. Narrowly specified, highly specialized jobs. There are different people can do only the things that have been assigned to them. Narrowly specified job descriptions. They are highly trained, but their span of control is very, very small. There are rigid boundaries between jobs and units. So what you can do may not be done by another person. There is very little interdependence. There is interdependence, but we work independently and we don't really interact. We don't take suggestions from each other in order to work. We know what we need to do, and our work may be linked to another person, but we don't need the advice or suggestion of another person in order to do what we want to do. We are essentially working within our own authorized boundaries. The second types of organizational structure there is the flat organizational structure. Now, no organization can be completely flat. Okay. Bureaucratic organizational structure essentially deals with position-centered organizations, where everything that we do is defined by the position we are in. In a flatter or a more horizontal organizational structure, there is a decentralized management approach. There is a focus on skills and how skills are contributing to the organization. There are fewer levels of management. Everybody gets together in teams. Positions are decided on the basis of the job that is required to be done, and not the other way around. So the job doesn't determine the position. The position sorry, the position doesn't determine the job determines the position. What is required to be done is what governs how many people there are going to be in a particular team, and that is what governs what needs to be done and who will do what, as opposed to a bureaucratic organization where everything is determined by the position one is in. Then there are horizontal career paths that cross functions. So in a flat organization, there are we learn more. The focus is not on rising above the hierarchy. The focus is on learning more so we can be a member of more and more work teams. Broadly defined jobs, so one could be doing one thing and could move on to the next job very soon. But then the job descriptions, the jobs, the units are broadly defined. People are doing more than one thing. Their boundaries are not very clearly defined. They could be doing two distinctly different things just because that is the requirement, the need of the hour. There is an emphasis on teamwork, there's an emphasis on collaboration, there is an emphasis on doing things together just to meet the needs of the organization. There is also a strong focus on the customer. There is a focus on what the customer could need from the employee. Boundaryless organizations are and then the other structure that we're dealing with is boundaryless organizations, which is the new type of structure that has come up these days. So there are joint ventures with customers, suppliers and competitors. Everybody gets together, gets the job done. Emphasis is on teams whose members may cross organizational boundaries. So there is no real boundary, there is no job description. Anyone and everyone who can help becomes a part of that team, and they are looking these boundaryless organizations are the ones that take in consultants as and when they require them. So a person could be working for more than one organization at one point of time. There is a clause, however, that you cannot work for competitors, and they'll tell you which one. So you need to declare to the second organization which organization you could be working for next. As long as their paths don't cross, it's okay. I mean, there are rules there also, but the rules are few and far between. Your boundaries, the rules are there, the boundaries are not so rigid. It's actually boundary-less. You do several things in one shot. A lot of one application of this is the modern day call center, where one call center is handling the accounts of several organizations just to respond to queries coming from customers. Again, I'm sitting here on the 16th of September 2015. This is the date on which this recording is taking place. I don't know when you will get to hear it. Probably now, maybe if this recording stays for a longer time, you could hear it even later, and this could become the done thing at that time. This kind of a classroom is also boundaryless. It's a joint venture with customers, suppliers and competitors. There are so many online open courses in the market. There are so many video courses in the market, and our course is just one of them. So, this is a boundary-less organization. As this lecture is being recorded, there are no students in front of me. All I see in front of me is a camera and a clock and a screen that is displaying what is being recorded. It's an empty room. I'm sitting in an empty room, and the recording is going on, and I taught, or I teach a class. I didn't teach a class today because there was an examination today, but I could be teaching a class in the morning in the organization that I'm a part of, and I could also, that is what I would have done. I'll probably do that next week. So I'll teach a different class in the morning, and then since this is being recorded by the same organization, it is still not so boundaryless. It's just another project, but this is not the only thing I'm doing. I'm teaching in different formats to different sets of students on the same day, sitting in the same office. This is a boundaryless organization. I don't have students in front of me. My students will listen to this lecture several weeks or several months after this has been recorded. There is no boundary, there is no limit to the extent to which these things can take us. And this is the modern day organization. You have a professor who's recording things at her own convenience, you will listen to it at your own convenience, and maybe at a mutually convenient time I will come online and answer your queries. So I am supposed to interact with you maybe once or twice in a month-long course and that's about it. Okay, so and that is so different from the regular courses, regular classes that we participate in, where we go to school or college at a set time and the teacher comes and takes attendance and then starts with the class and then scolds you for coming in late and then gives you assignments, gives you feedback. Feedback will be given to you, assignments will be given to you, tests will be given to you, but not really at a set time. It will be staggered according to your convenience and according to my convenience. So we are able to do so many things at the same time. I am of course in the same profession, but a person who's in the industry could be sitting here as a teacher, as an expert, and still be doing this. This is an example of a boundary-less organization. It's great, but it poses a massive challenge for a human resources person, for a human resources manager, for a human resources department. How do you monitor these employees? I'm amazed at how expertly the human resources personnel at IIT Kharagpur are able to take care of all of these things. They are looking at of course my organization gives me a task and I do it, but wherever there is additional remuneration involved, wherever there are additional scheduling things involved, wherever there are additional people involved, everything is everything is adjusted, everything is managed with such finesse, and it amazes me as to how they can keep records of so many activities that so many people are doing at the same time. This is the challenge of the modern day human resources environment. Then we have process-based organizations. A process is a collection of activities such as procurement, order fulfillment, product development, or credit issuance that takes one or more kinds of input and creates an output that is of value to a customer. So there are priorities of process-based organizations. These are organizations that follow a set process. They could be manufacturing, they could be service industries, they could be financial institutions, but a set process is followed in order to ensure the quality of the delivered product or service. So there's an identification of job specifications, there's identification of the work environment, context and social aspects of work, and a change in the emphasis from describing jobs to describing roles. The job will get done as long as the roles are specified, and these are the priorities of a process-based organization. Job characteristics theory, very, very, very important. This theory states that employees will be more motivated to work and more satisfied with their jobs to the extent that jobs contain certain core characteristics, as these will lead to psychological states that will further lead to specific work outcomes. I love this theory. You know why? Because this theory really emphasizes the need of treating human beings as human beings. Something needs to be done. Yes. Who is going to do it? I'm going to do it. Why should I do anything? Why should I do anything at all? Because I'm motivated to do it. What will motivate me? My environment. Internal and external environment. Internal environment cannot be controlled by the organization that I'm a part of, but the external environment can be modified. So what in the external environment will motivate me? The skill variety. Some of us get motivated with a variety of skills that we use in our work environments. That is a big motivating factor. I'm not doing the same boring, routine, mundane work every day. Someday I'm using my analytical skills. Someday I'm using my persuasive skills. Someday I'm using my physical ability. Okay, Someday I'm using my patience when I correct papers that have been written by students where students don't respond to questions properly. So that day my patience is being tested, my honesty, my integrity, my fairness is being tested. Okay, skill variety. Okay, task identity is the other core job characteristic. Task identity is the degree to which a person can do the job from beginning to end with a visible outcome. Many of us do not feel comfortable with us not being able to see the results of what we have done. We are so keen, we desperately want to see the outcome of whatever we have done. Okay, so that is called task identity. If a job gives us an opportunity to start and then see the end product. In academics, the end product is a person, a student who comes with one set of skills and leaves with an advanced, more polished set of skills at the end of 2 years, with an MBA degree in hand, with a great job in hand. That is the outcome that all of us are looking for, and then comes and tells us, ma'am, this is because of what you taught me in class. One thing that you taught me in class was helpful. That serves as such a big pat on our backs when we go and meet our alumni and they say, ma'am, you scolded me, but you taught me something very important. That is such a big plus for a teacher. Such a big achievement. We don't see it in the first few years, so we feel lost. But after that, we start seeing these things and it becomes such a big motivator. I'm able to see the result of my efforts, maybe a little later. Okay, and that forces me to stay in a job that requires, that demands so much of my time and effort. Autonomy. Amount of freedom, independence and discretion an employee has in areas such as scheduling the work, making decisions and determining how to do the job. How much independence do I have? I am here at IIT, I stay in my office till 8, 9, 10 at night sometimes. And the amount of autonomy I have here is, I have so much of independence, so much of control over what I'm able to do at work. That itself is a big motivator. If you are not comfortable with too many instructions, I think teaching is one profession that you should seriously consider coming to, especially in a place like IIT. We are given a free hand. The boundaries are defined, but we are given enough space and encouragement to spread our wings, and that is such a big motivator. I want to stay in this job only because one of the big reasons is the freedom I've given to learn. There is no time limit on the amount of time I can spend in my office just polishing my skills as a researcher and as a teacher. There is no limit to the amount of support I can get from my organization if I'm able to convince them that I need this support to polish my skills as a researcher or as a teacher. And that is so big. I tell them I let them know what my requirements are, and everybody comes together to support me. They don't question my need for anything here, as long as they are convinced that I'm doing this in the best interests of my students, and that itself, they believe that I'm doing whatever I'm doing is for the betterment of my students. So that is the autonomy I'm talking about. So that is one of the characteristics. Feedback is the degree to which the job provides the employee with clear and direct information about job outcomes and performance. As long as my supervisor meets me and tells me where I need to improve, and also gives me some sort of positive reinforcement and tells me, great, you've done something well, I'm happy with my job. These have been identified as 5 main characteristics of any job that can motivate a person, that can convince a person, that can help a person believe that it is worthwhile staying in a particular job. The dynamic characteristics of jobs are time, people, environment and context. Okay. Yeah. So these are some of the job characteristics. Okay. Right. Some more characteristics of jobs are time, people, environment and context. The job specifications and people requirements are minimally acceptable qualifications and skills. Okay. And ideal qualifications and skills. These are some more requirements that add on to the characteristics of jobs. Made a mistake here. Legal issues, religious minorities, and some issues related to job requirements, job specifications are some issues that we deal with when designing HR programs. They are related to religious minorities and the Indian Constitution. Persons with Disabilities Act, these are again part of job requirements that we need to consider before designing any job. The National Commission for Backward Classes Act is another thing that we need to consider. The National Commission for Backward Classes rules that we need to consider while designing any particular job description here. How do we study job requirements? Now that we know how job requirements are designed, or why job requirements are important, how do we study these job requirements? The first one is job performance. The actual experience on the job is what we need to study. Observation is another way of studying job requirements. Physical first-hand observation of people at work. Okay. Interview is another one. Then we ask workers what they are doing. We ask people who are already in a job what they are doing. Critical incidents is another one. There are reports of significant incidents highlighting effective and ineffective worker behaviors. Then we have structured questionnaires which are job oriented. For example, a position analysis questionnaire which has 194 items in the following categories, which is information input, mental processes, work output, relationships with other persons, job context and other job characteristics. So can you please stop the recording? Of the job characteristics theory is the psychological state affected by job characteristics. For this, as part of this, there is an impact of the previous factors that we just talked about, the core job characteristics, on the mental state, the state of mind of the individual employee. So this actually, the three aspects of the psychological state that are affected by the job characteristics are experienced meaningfulness, which is the extent to which the employee experiences the work as important, valuable and worthwhile. Now again, these are not my words, these have been taken directly from the book by Gomez, Mejia, Balkin and Cardy. The second part of this is experienced responsibility, which is the degree to which the employee feels personally responsible or accountable for the results of the work, and knowledge of results. So three aspects that are affected as far as the job characteristics are concerned are these three aspects. And once how we work, what we know, how we feel about our job is affected, that has a long-term impact on the ultimate outcome of the work that we are performing in terms of work motivation, the energy we have to do our work properly, the performance, the quality of the work that we produce, the satisfaction with the work, low turnover, and that in turn leads to low turnover and absenteeism, which means obviously if we enjoy going to work, we are not going to want to miss work, we are not going to want to leave our jobs. We would like to stay in our organizations if we enjoy the work that we are doing. So the link between core job characteristics and outcomes is the strength of relationships, which is determined by intensity of employee growth need, which thrives on and affects feedback. So in the previous aspect, we saw that feedback was one of the very important characteristics of any job. We are concerned about our performance. We want somebody to tell us whether what we are doing is right or not, whether what we are doing is meaningful or not. We want our superiors to evaluate our work, to assess our work and tell us whether what we are doing is meaningful or not. Okay, so the degree to which the job provides the employee with clear and direct information, and whether we are told where we are going wrong, where we can improve or not, will on the one hand help us improve our performance, and on the other it will help us bond with our superiors. It will also show us how clarity of feedback, how the details provided in our feedback are going to help us improve the kind of work we do. Okay, and that in turn will influence our decision to stay committed to our organization, to be loyal to our organization, to be committed to our teams. If we enjoy the people we are, being in the company of the people we are working with, if we know that they are going to be honest in what they say about our work, if we know that they will honestly tell us where we are going wrong instead of penalizing us, they'll help us stay on track, they'll help us improve our performance at work, we will want to trust them. There is a bonding, there is a connection that develops, and that influences our decision to stay with the company. Okay, so that is one big characteristic, connection between job characteristics and outcomes. How do we study job requirements? Now, job characteristics theory proves or suggests that that the characteristics of our jobs through us improve or have an impact on the kind of work that is produced. How do we study what is required for the job? There are various ways of doing it. First thing is job performance, the actual experience on the job. We try and do something ourselves, and through doing it we understand what is required for that job. The second is observation. So somebody else does the work and we stand and watch. We observe every aspect, every step of the job that is done. Okay. The third is an interview. Interview is descriptions provided by workers. So we ask the people who are doing the job to write down, okay, descriptions of the workers and descriptions by the workers also. Okay. So we speak to the workers and we ask them what is being done, and they tell us that I go through step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is how the job is done. That is the description by the worker. The fourth one is critical incidents. We only find out what is being done when there is either something very positive or very negative. Critical incidents are reports of significant incidents highlighting effective and ineffective worker behaviors. For example, an employee excels. For example, an employee does something really well. So that gives us an idea about the positive critical incident. For example, an employee makes a mistake. That informs us that something extra needed to be done. So we keep a record of excellent performance and substandard performance. We don't count the normal routine performance, and that record then helps us understand what is required to get the job done properly. The other part of this is structured questionnaires or job oriented questionnaires, For example, the position analysis questionnaire, which we will cover in a little bit. So these questionnaires then help us in understand what is required in a job. How do we design jobs? We've studied the characteristics of jobs. We know how characteristics of jobs affect the ultimate outcome. We have now also analyzed the jobs. Now we need to design jobs. Okay. What is a job design? Job design is the process of organizing work into the tasks required to perform a specific job. So the steps that we go through, the influences on job design are workflow analysis, business strategy and organizational structure, and I will talk about these a little later. Some approaches to job design. Some ways in which we understand job design. The first one is work simplification. See, when we talk about job design, we are assuming that any task can be broken down into independent, crystal clearly independent steps. Now that is an assumption. Sometimes the steps may not be so clear. Sometimes the steps may run into each other. Work simplification, or the work simplification perspective, assumes that work can be broken down into complete repetitive tasks that maximize efficiency, and if anyone were to go through those steps, they would end up producing the same results. Now this is very helpful, and this is used in places where the activities are routine. So for example, in a factory where there is a set pattern of where the product begins to get manufactured and how it is produced. So the steps are clearly defined, and day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, there is a repetition of tasks, and this repetition in turn results in the same quality of product being produced again and again. It results in what we call as product integrity. Work simplification. The other is work elimination, combining tasks or eliminating parts of tasks that one can do without. Now a very good example of work elimination is when organizations move from a bureaucratic structure to a flatter structure where the extra frills are removed. An excellent example of this can be seen in these no frills type of hotel chains coming up. A hotel is a place where you go and rest and relax when you're either out for personal reasons or because of your job. Okay, now a well-known industrialist, well-known conglomerate started a chain of these no frills hotels recently in India. I will not name that chain, but you can go and find that out. And these hotels are known, or the hotels in this chain are known for their no frills service. The steps have been eliminated. The extra people have been eliminated. The private airlines that have come into the country are removing these frills. Nobody comes to you with a tray of toffee in their hands. We all remember, many of us remember the old time Indian Airlines. When Indian Airlines was in operation, somebody would come with a tray with candy in it and with earbuds and toothpicks, and they would serve this as the plane was taking off, and then one after the other things would start coming. I'm talking about product elimination, but even in processes, a lot of processes have been eliminated. This whole system of through proper channel that exists in the bureaucratic structure, it has its merits, but that has been removed in the private organizations where everything is end product or goal oriented. Okay, another thing is job enlargement. Job enlargement is expansion of a job's duties, where one person or a person in one position is empowered to do a lot more in that position or given more responsibilities. For example, in academics, the professors these days are taking on the administrative responsibilities also. It's no longer restricted only to teaching and research. We are also taking on, especially in business schools, which is where I am from, we are taking on a lot of responsibility, the administrative responsibilities. We are also managing things within our own departments that are non-academic in nature. So, that is job expansion. You are not only a teacher, you are also an administrator, you are also a mentor, you are also a student. We go through training programs. So, that is job enlargement. Our area is widening. We have job rotation. Okay. Job rotation is the rotation of workers among different narrowly defined tasks without disrupting the flow of work. Job rotation is when workers do more things, they get trained in more things. Okay. All right. Job enrichment, it puts specialized tasks back together so that one person is responsible for producing a whole product. It shouldn't be a wild product, a whole product or an entire service. I'm sorry, that's a mistake here. Is responsible for producing a whole product or an entire service. So, you put specialized tasks back together, you give one person the charge of running the entire operation very smoothly, okay, and that is called job enrichment. Team based job designs. Team based job designs focus on giving a team rather than an individual a whole and meaningful piece of work to do. Team based job designs essentially focus on the task being distributed among different team members and insists on the team members doing their work together. So, there is a lot of interdependence, there is a lot of sharing, there is a lot of specialized activity going on that fits in with each other. So, these are some ways in which jobs can be designed, work can be simplified into independent steps, work can be eliminated, work can be added, work can be done by this, different types of work can be done by different people. One person can be doing a lot more. That you might be confused between job enlargement and job enrichment. Job enlargement means you take on additional responsibilities. Job enrichment is when you super specialize and you add a lot more value to the existing basket of things, and one person actually does what the entire team would have done. So, that is the difference between job enlargement and job enrichment. Job enrichment just takes the meaningful pieces of a large number of or number of jobs and puts them together in such a way that one task can be completed in a no frills but efficient manner. Okay. And then we have team based activity. Job analysis is, again, there are three parts to job analysis. One is the task, the basic element of work that is a logical and necessary step in performing a job duty. Duty consists of one or more tasks that constitute a significant activity performed in a job, and responsibility is one or several duties that identify and describe the major purpose or reason for the job's existence. So, job analysis consists of what is to be done, several parts, several tasks that are done, and taking the ownership of that tasks and or knowing why those tasks are going to be done, and the analysis of this whole task doing performing commitment is known as job analysis. Methods of gathering job information, some ways in which we gather information about our jobs. One is interviews, observation, diaries, questionnaires, internet based data collection. Why do we analyze jobs? We analyze jobs for recruitment, for selection. Recruitment, again, I told you earlier also, recruitment refers to the generation of a pool of suitable candidates. We filter out the people who can do that job properly. Selection refers to actually deciding which out of these suitable people are we going to hire. Once we hire them, then we need to appraise their performance. We need to find out who's doing the work as it is expected to be done, who is not. Then compensation, how much do we pay them, and whether we need to give them more training, whether we need to help them develop their careers, etc. So this is to get information, to be informed about all of these aspects of a job in an organization. We analyze jobs. Some techniques. One is task inventory analysis. It is used to determine knowledge, skills and abilities. The steps in task inventory analysis. We make a list. Inventory means you have a collection, a gathering, an accumulation of tasks. We make a list of tasks and we find out the knowledge, skills and abilities of the people who are going to undertake those tasks. The steps in this are, one is interview. Okay, interview, we find out from the people who are actually doing the job as to what they need and what they have and what they can and cannot do. The second is survey. Okay, we conduct a general survey among the people who are doing the job, among the people who are being affected by the job, and the third is generation of a task by the KSA matrix. Now this is the other aspect. So on one side we ask people what they can do, and we may also make a list of the knowledge, skills and abilities that people have and design their tasks accordingly. Okay, so an example of this can be seen through this link. You can either copy this link and go to this website, or just a second, let me see if I can end the show and show this to you. So this is an example of a KSA matrix. Okay, there is a sample. This has been created by Northern Arizona University, USA, and you can see a sample matrix here. Okay, so in this matrix they have education, they have career and academic advising. So they find out the name of the applicant here, and then degrees, then education, how has it been demonstrated, okay, program development, implementation and assessment. So this is the knowledge, these are the skills, and here are the different abilities, knowledge, skills and abilities, and marks are assigned here. You see, okay, you can do this yourself also. You can go through this and see whether it will be helpful for your organization. Okay. The other is the critical incident technique that I just mentioned a little while ago. Supervisors and workers generate behavioral incidents of job performance. So they write down what occurred, what were the implications, and then which task can have what kind of critical incidents, and then they assign values, they retranslate, they find out how it can impact the overall goal, and then they analyze the job. Okay, the other is the position analysis questionnaire, which consists of 194 items in 6 sections. These items are in these sections are information input, where and how a worker gets information, mental processes, what kinds of mental abilities are required, work output, okay, how much of physical activity, tools and devices are going to be there, so used by the worker to perform the job, relationships with other persons and job context, and any other characteristics that remain uncovered or that have not been covered through these above mentioned categories. And different questions are asked, and based on the responses to these questions the job is analyzed. Another way of analyzing jobs is functional job analysis, what the job incumbent does to people, data and things, what is required, methods and techniques the job incumbent is the actual person who's doing the job, methods and techniques the job incumbent uses to perform the job, machines, tools and equipment used by the job incumbent. So what does the person doing the job need? Professor needs a computer, needs a printer, needs some kind of administrative help, needs books, needs a place to sit in, an office to sit in, a chair to sit on, needs extra chairs for the students to come in. So what do we need? We need cupboards, we need lockable cupboards so we can keep confidential material, including answer scripts of students. So all of that is part of the job analysis. Functional job analysis, what actually happens on the job? Materials, projects or services produced by the job incumbent. Once the organization gives the person doing the job whatever he or she needs, then they also want to know the output. Okay, so that all that consists of the functional job analysis. Various advantages and disadvantages, I suggest, even though some of them are on this slide, I suggest that based on what I've just told you, you go through this and let me and discuss amongst yourselves what different methods could entail. Okay, relationship of job analysis to workforce planning. Now what is workforce planning? Planning how many people you need, what they are going to do, how ultimately their work is going to come together and produce the goal for the organization that the organization wants to produce. Various types of plans are there. One is strategic planning. We plan about changing industry rules or creating tomorrow's industries. So how do we fit in whatever we are doing with whatever is expected from us by the environment? The other is tactical or operational planning. It addresses issues associated with the growth of current or new operations. So how do we change the way we work? Strategic is overall, overarching, should we produce the same product, should we not produce the same product, what should we do, where should we go next, all of that. Operational or tactical is actually hands-on on the job. Where do we need to modify our existing way of doing things? If yes, what should we do and how should we do it? Workforce planning includes the people that are included or that are involved in different operations. How many people do we need? What will they do? What will happen if they leave? What can affect their retention? What can affect their exit from the organization? All of those things. So only when we know what people are going to do will we be able to make all these plans. Some foundations for workforce planning: when we hire people, we also need to give them money. So what level will the wage rate be for an occupation? How many people will be employed? How much more will the firm have to pay? How would the number of people the company employs change if the wage were lower? So how do we decide make compensation decisions. Okay. Some activities comprising a workforce planning system are talent inventory. We make a list of whatever different people are bringing to the table. We have a workforce forecast in terms of how much do people need, how many people do we need, the action plans and control and evaluation. Some details are here. I will not go into this because all this is available on the net. Okay. Various uses of a talent inventory. Once we know what people can do, we can use this information for their promotions, etc. Promotions, transfers, training, separation, compensation, etc. Okay. So one very important part of workforce planning is whether we hire people from within the organization or do we go outside the organization and get people. But then we will cover all these questions in the next lectures. At this point, I just want you to think about whatever I have told you. A human resources manager's responsibility is so much. There is so much that an HR manager needs to do. There is so much that the area of human resources covers. Why? Because human resources, human beings are involved. What they do is involved. We have to get the best out of people. We have to compensate them appropriately, and we also have to ensure that they feel comfortable and committed to the organization, so they feel like contributing. We are dealing with human beings, and that is why all of these things, knowing what they are going to do, how they are going to do it, what will affect what they do, is so very important. We'll cover recruitment, selection, interviewing of candidates in the next lecture. Thank you for listening.